Welcome to the breakdown, where we break down all the messed up movies. Today, we are going all the way to Paris to meet the Butcher, a sad sack of a guy who is probably better off dead. That's what he believes anyway. I Stand Alone, directed by Gaspar Noe, who also directed Irreversible. In fact, the Butcher, the main character in this movie, had a cameo in that one. Now, this isn't as harsh as Irreversible, but we have a main character who lives in his head, finding the central things of living useless. He also hates the rich, and he navigates the streets of Paris looking for a butchering job, after many obstacles along the way. That sort of makes him seem admirable, but he's not. He's kind of trash. Okay, so let's see how he ends up alone. If you want to see what happens, including all the messed up parts, stay tuned for the breakdown. Cue the Gohan. Wow, look, it's France. You know, I always thought France looked like Shaggy. Like, did that look like Shaggy's head? Morality, a product of the rich. Sounds like philosophy class all over again. Justice, that's my little sister's name. A gun, and the upper chance that it gives. Now, let's get into the tragedy of the Butcher trying to survive in France with morality and justice near the end. Whoever the Butcher is, he was abandoned by his mother at 2 years old. His father was a French communist killed by the Nazis. He grew up a harsh life, once being raped by a priest before finally picking up the butcher life. Over 15 years, he butchers horse meat and is finally gaining momentum in sales. Soon he meets a girl and gets her pregnant, who the mother abandons just like the butcher's mother before. Now, it's just him and his daughter, and she is as mute as that guy you play as in that 2001 game. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Years pass and she grows up, and the Butcher starts feeling attracted to her and resists urges. Soon, she has her first period, and we do have a pic of her underpants, but we don't need to see all that. Of course, she doesn't have a mother, so nobody told her about such a thing, but she goes to her father, and he assumes that she's been raped. So he corners some random construction site worker and stabs him. The Butcher goes to jail, and the daughter Cynthia is placed in an institution. Now his whole life is ruined once he gets out of jail. That's until he meets another woman and moves to northern France with her. That's his life. And now he announces that it's time to start over. It's 1980, northern France. Here's the women he drove off with, and they seem to have a very boring life. The girlfriend says that this is the same side her father used to sleep on, whatever that means. The woman used to own a bar in Paris, and now they will work at a bar here. To help with living expenses, the Butcher will work at a deli place, which is a bit easier than being a butcher. The Butcher doesn't like his new life here. He's honestly pretty trash. He tries to get a job at the deli, but he can't even put the effort in to look interested. So he's fired before he's even started. But lucky him, the girlfriend's mother gets him a job working as like a night watchman at a place for the old and sick. And of course, he's bitter about it because now he can't watch TV. And so he works there for pretty much a long time. But one time, one of the nurses comes and knocks on his window saying that an old lady is suffocating. He goes to help her, treat the lady, but it turns out the woman dies. Now the nurse, she has never seen death before. I don't think he has either, but he just doesn't care. It's just something natural, right? So he agrees to walk her home, and with purpose, he wants to get in her panties. But of course, he doesn't go through with it and ends up walking to a porn cinema just thinking about his failure of getting into the woman's house. Now, a friend of his girlfriend saw him walking with that nurse, and she's gonna go back and tell his girlfriend that he's cheating on her. But actually, the closest thing he did to cheating is masturbate at a porn cinema. I wonder, do they still have these kind of things? I'm not asking because I want to go. I was just asking because they just seem... Let me shut up. So once he gets back home, she thinks that he cheated, right? And she's mad at him. He didn't cheat, but that doesn't mean he wasn't thinking about it. Still, he overreacts and she tells him to get out, but he starts beating her. Like, bro, all you had to do was tell her that you walked a nurse home. You don't even know her name. Weirdo. Now, I didn't mention this before, but the girlfriend is pregnant and he's beating on her and punches her stomach, which most likely kills the baby. The mom makes the mistake of saying she's gonna go get the gun before actually getting the gun, and the butcher attacks her and takes it. He decides not to kill the two and leaves the apartment as the mother and daughter cry about the baby. That was a weird scene, especially how the mom just sat there. I think that's the thing, when you see something like this, sometimes you don't really know what to do. It's like a battle between wanting to keep composure and wanting to do something. So I don't really blame the mom too much. She's, just an old lady. So, pretty tough scene. And as he is walking, he mentions what he's going to do now. He thinks the child is better off dead and decides to go back to Paris by hitchhiking. He was prepared to take the truck if he had to, but now he's on his way back listening to music he probably rather not listen to. Now it's the next chapter of his trash heap life. He goes to an old flat he had, a familiar one. It's the room where he conceived his first daughter, Cynthia. So don't be surprised that someone whose mother left him and the mother of his child left him, he's gonna have some misogynistic thoughts. Probably the most misogynistic you could get, he's that. He wonders how he'll get money, especially when his friends are nowhere to be found. He has various interviews with people to get a job, but nobody will accept him. He goes to a temp agency, but she says that there is no butcher or deli work available. He goes out drinking that night and gets hit on from a lady. Fun for her might involve a lot of drug use though, sadly. It's awkward talking to her, and she talks about giving an exchange of energy. It's like she's a chemistry teacher. And so they get on with the weird chemistry. That was a weird prostitution scene. Kinda touched me when she asked him not to hurt her. That scene made me feel like I had a wet rag wrapped around my heart. He later goes to ask for money from a friend, but he's struggling himself. The guy does say that he should fight for his daughter. Remember, she is inside some institution. The guy's hands look like Jesus as he mentions he'll always have a bed and bread to give him. It's damn tough being poor, starving. He saves his money and rests in his hot place. Hot meaning he doesn't have any AC. You know how hard it is to sleep? Hot. Next day, he interviews with butchers, but times are hard for all of them and they aren't accepting anybody. I'm really surprised the police haven't picked you up yet. I mean, you did murder a baby. And now, Mr. Diktovich is asking for rent, but the butcher says you'll get the rent once you fix this damn door. Seriously, he goes for another job interview, this time with a professional butcher company. The butcher once did contract work with them. The interview is his best one yet, but the guy can't promise him a job at this time. The butcher just walks around, angry about it, ridiculing his interviewer for being gay. He knew about gay rumors from when he worked with him before. Oh my god, I'd hate to live in your head. It make me want to blow my brains out. It's a miserable existence that you have, just listening to him. I hate his thoughts, but it does sound very interesting. He hates France for being ran by fruitcake queers, as he calls it. The interviewer from earlier is getting a lot of hate, and he plans on murdering him. He wants to kill him and goes inside this bar to plan it out and to do more hatred overthinking. He imagines the entire interaction he will have with his planned victim. He doesn't even have enough money to buy a drink at the bar and gets into an altercation with this random guy, calling him an N-word and the F-word. Well, that guy is the bartender's son, so it's either get the fuck out or die. It's a good pops. A lot of fatherhood in this February, huh? Trauma with that father-son, and now we have bartender and son. It's cool. The butcher leaves with everybody clowning him. He's so embarrassed about it that he goes around to get his gun and hammers his own mind, thinking about what he'll do. He realizes he has 3 bullets, one for the bartender, his son, and the interviewer. He kicks at the business of one of his targets, but either he isn't there or he just ignores the butcher. He leaves after calling him an F-word again. Dejected, he goes back into his flat to ponder his hate the rich thoughts. his miserable life intertwined with killing the people he wants to kill and how painful their death will be. Each zoom in on his mouth is him shooting someone he hates and then following it up with their last words. But he has nothing to say after the last bullet, which is to say that he himself is a victim. He's gonna shoot himself next. He decides against it though once he thinks about Cynthia's future. He finally meets back up with his daughter Cynthia. She's still quite mute and always has been, and the two take a walk. They take to the train and he thinks in his head that World War III wouldn't be so bad if Germany and the people that he hates would disappear. He doesn't really know what to do about his daughter. And then suddenly, we get a 30-second timer to leave the screening of the film. That's very interesting. It's pretty unique, but it's warning us of some things we probably won't like. A danger screen plays next. A warning for something I won't want to see. Hilarious. I'm sorry if that piqued or hurt your ears, but hilarious. Do you know who I am? I will be the next disturbing king. I can't back out. They enter his flat and he is happy to see his daughter, but incestuous thoughts start to come. He's itching to do something with her, to say the least. What follows next is him groping his daughter and then apparently having sex with her. Afterwards, he shoots her. Unexpectedly. But yeah, he's watching her bleed out on the floor. The police already knock on the door and he just sits there watching them, trying to break through it. His thoughts literally go rampant. He's thinking so quick and it's just crazy. Makes me anxious even thinking about it. He's literally just thinking about what he's gonna do, putting her out of her suffering, what he's gonna do to himself and all of that. That must be like how L thinks, except he actually has logic in his head. He just imagines blowing his brains out and goes all over the room talking quickly and annoying. Finally, he apparently shoots himself. But guess what? It was all just a dream, all in his head. Of course, he had no reason to kill his daughter. That was previously mentioned. What a nightmare that was, though. After he puts the gun back in the closet, he hugs his daughter like he probably should have at the institution. Soon, he starts bawling, and she consoles him as he tells her, "Please, don't leave me alone." I felt that. I don't like him, but I felt that. Loneliness. You remember the girl from Audition? Loneliness. February and the beginning of March is low-key the month of loneliness. Now that little sad moment may have been innocent, but he still does have incestuous thoughts about his daughter, and he does fondle her. That's how he feels about her, and she doesn't know any better. He's happy to do what he wants now, and figures he has nothing to lose. The movie ends as he's thinking about having sex with his daughter. It's fair to say that he did have sex with her, and went to jail for it, since years later, he appears as a cameo in Irreversible. I guess he didn't kill himself. Well, that was a jarring film, filled with mostly voiceover and interesting thoughts from the butcher. Check it out yourself because there was a lot I didn't mention, but I just gave you a gist. It's well made and follows the director's direction. Plus, it has some pretty unique cinematography effects. Let's talk about the most disturbed moment and most enjoyed moment, and that's spooky stuff. First, I'd like to mention that Paris was very bleak in this film, wasn't it? But that doesn't mean Paris is very bleak. The director shows you the bowels of Paris and his vision. I don't like when people think like the butcher. Instead of me focusing on how the director portrayed the butcher's inner thoughts, I'd like to imagine what it takes to influence 50 years of despair to think about their own life differently. Most disturbed moment is a tie between when the butcher beat his girlfriend and possibly killed their baby, and when he shot his daughter in the dream sequence. Realistically, it should be the beating, but the way the dream sequences was edited, it was almost jarring. Almost reminded me of that scene in Irreversible where you would see the insides of that nightclub. It was anxious listening to his rambles. Most enjoyed moment is probably seeing an idiot get kicked out of the bar. I dislike when people blame other people all the time when things don't go right for them. Like, I get it, it's natural, but sometimes you just have to sit and be like, you know what, this is my fault. And that's it. This movie is directed by the same guy who did Irreversible, so check that video out. But beware, that movie has probably the most disturbing sexual assault scene I've ever seen, at least for me. On the right is Angst, a film that inspired the director, with another crazy character that also thinks a lot in his head. Thanks for watching. Spooky out.